Hey, what's up everybody? We are back again, and today we are once again going to be returning to a rapper that I have covered in the past, going by the name of Wifisfuneral. Now, if you're not familiar with this artist, his main claim to fame is probably appearing on the XXL freshman list for 2018, the one that was really shit that didn't have Lil Xan, 6ix9ine, or basically half of the popping rappers of that year. And if you don't know him from that, you most likely know him for being friends with XXXTentacion, as well as being an early member of Members Only, but he did eventually end up leaving that even before X passed away to focus on his own solo career, which definitely was pretty successful. I mean, the guy definitely had some accolades under his belt. He ended up signing to a big mainstream label, and it seemed like he was going to be one of the biggest rappers to come out of the SoundCloud era. But despite that, after the XXL freshman list, he kind of petered out. And the reason behind that is all too common in the SoundCloud wave. We've seen it with Smoke Perp, we've seen it with Lil Pump. It's all because he wasn't able to kick his drug habit, and eventually it started to cause damage to both his career and personal life. And you would know all of this if you watched the prior video that I did on him, but unfortunately, I did have to take that down after it got age restricted, so consider this a part 2 to that video, even though it's not up right now, but I'm going to try to re-edit it and re-upload it at some point in the future. But if you did happen to watch that video, you know at the end that I mentioned that Wi-Fi became somewhat infamous for being a scammer in his later years, although I was never really able to find any proof of that. A lot of people said that they had been scammed by him, but didn't have any evidence, so I really couldn't say one way or the other. But unfortunately, it seems like these rumors might have actually been true, because I ended up getting hit up by somebody saying they were scammed by Wifisfuneral, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today. But like always, I haven't read these messages out before I started recording the video, so I'm going to try to give them the benefit of the doubt as best as I can, but if I start to see bullshit, I'm going to call it out. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we actually have something a little bit different than the usual, hey, I want to buy a feature. They end up sending the money to the artist never gets back to them and goes ghost.
Bitch, I'm going ghost. Bitch, I'm going ghost. Bitch, I'm going ghost. Bitch, I'm going ghost.
Running off with the money. This time we have a show scam. So I'm going to start off by the guy explaining exactly what went down so we can have a little bit of context around these screenshots. He says to me, alright, this is what happened. Wifisfuneral announced his Blackheart Revenge 2 tour in December of last year, and he was offering opener slots for each state. I hit up his manager to open up for him in Columbus, Ohio, and he said slots were $500. Now right off the bat, I already have quite a bit to say about this, because this is a very common trend in the underground scene where you get a somewhat well-known rapper, somebody who definitely has a recognizable name who people will know and definitely get excited for if they know that they're coming to their city, but they're not really big time. For some examples, you'd have people like NASCAR Allo, Zarkon, Thousand Band Fani, you know, people that you have heard of before, but they're not really the big mainstay artists that everybody knows. And because of that, they're not really able to sell out a show all on their own. They need other people to come along too. So oftentimes when they come to cities that they're not that popular in, they look for opening acts. Now, I really don't find anything wrong with this whatsoever, because after all, you got to do what you got to do to pack out a show. If you got to bring out 40 artists just to get enough people in a room that you can all get paid, well, it's worth it. And if you're performing in any capacity, you're definitely far ahead of a lot of people in the underground scene. And honestly, in my opinion, I think it's a pretty good transaction. The smaller artist gets to come out, perform in front of a bigger audience, get some practice and experience that will help them out later on in their career. And for the bigger artists, they get a free opener. They don't have to deal with trying to hire on somebody else. They get more people on the roster, more people come to the show to see their friend perform, and it works out for both of them. But the unfortunate side effect of this is sometimes the smaller artists can turn down other opportunities because they feel like they're very connected to the bigger artists, that they actually have a real friendship with them, and that they have to be loyal to them. When 90% of the time, you're probably never going to see them again, so honestly, just take any opportunity you can get. Who cares if the big artist also has beef with the other big artist that you're trying to perform with? At the end of the day, if this big artist saw you in a crowded room, they'd probably just walk by you and not even recognize you, so there's no need to have any sort of loyalty to them in that way. I mean, be nice to them, be respectful, and in my opinion, staying neutral is probably the best course of action. As soon as you start aligning yourself with somebody too much, you're definitely going to lose opportunities. But with all that said, that's only a little bit of unsolicited advice, but really, it doesn't matter in the long run. However, when somebody starts asking you to pay them so you can get on their show, that's a little bit different. I mean, it's not like it's never worked out in the past. Somebody like Lil Mosey actually ended up paying for a lot of his early performances, which gave him enough exposure in the area to really kickstart his career, but 9 times out of 10, I feel like it's not really going to work out that way. However, I'm definitely interested to hear what people have to say in the comments. Would you pay to perform at a show? Do you think it's worth the investment, or do you think it's a complete scam? Let me know. Now, this conversation finally kicks off in January 2024, which means the tour was already off to a start at this point, and he ends up saying, hey, my name is Aldo, I go by 68 pluses, and I saw on Wi-Fi's story that y'all are looking for openers. I was wondering if me and my homie Isaac can open up for y'all in Columbus, Ohio. We charge $500 for a slot lot, G. I got one open. Let me know. So right off the bat, a little aggressive, I'm not gonna lie, but after all, I mean, they are on tour. They gotta make sure that all their shows are set up correctly before they get there. So I can see why they're acting like this, but at the same time, saying they only got one open definitely does put you in a position where it's like, damn, I only got one shot to do this, so I definitely gotta figure it out. He says, damn, alright, can you give me 2 or 3 weeks? He responds, if it's still there, then yes, no problem, but I can't promise it'll be available. Alright, that's cool. I'll let you know then. A couple weeks pass by. He says, yo, do you still have that spot open for Columbus? He says, yes. Alright, bet. How do we work this out? Cash App or Apple Pay? Cash App is cool, but I don't have a DJ with me, and I was wondering if there'd be one out there that could help me. He says, yes, don't worry about that. We'll get you accommodated, and then he sends his Cash App. He says, alright, money will be there soon, and let me know when I need to be there. Thank you. He says, let me know when it's sent. So this guy is asking about showing up, about getting a DJ, having everything accommodated, and Wi-Fi is only asking about money. And I know a lot of people are probably going to say it's not actually Wi-Fi on the other end of the phone. It's probably a manager or a tour promoter or something like that. But either way, if they're using your Instagram to promote stuff and they're taking money under your name, it's still your problem. He ends up sending the money and says, all right, it was sent. He says, perfect. Okay, so set list. Have your songs pre-mixed if you can. If not, it's fine, not required. Have all MP3 files ready in email and hard drive. I will have more info about the DJ and set times closer to the show. Please note that these times are subject to change. So there you go. After he sends the money, he starts being more professional, giving him the answers that he wants, which I mean makes sense. They probably are pretty busy being on tour with a bunch of small artists reaching out to them, asking if they can be an opener, but they probably don't want to send the money, or they're asking way too many questions, and you don't really want to waste a whole lot of time messing with somebody who's not really serious about actually showing up. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I know this might be kind of a controversial opinion, but sometimes smaller artists can be really annoying. I mean, I know a lot of times people say that big artists are way too stuck up and they won't talk to their fans, but I do feel like a lot of smaller artists are very entitled, and when they reach out to their favorite artist, they absolutely expect a response, because after all, I'm a fan of you, how could you ever ignore me? Not realizing that that very same artist has 500 people reaching out to him on a daily basis, and there's no way that he can respond to all of them. He says, alright, bet, thank you. Then they don't talk until March, when he says, yo, I saw the Columbus show got postponed, and I was wondering if I could still perform for whenever the show is back on in Columbus again. He says, of course, nothing has changed. He says, alright, I appreciate it, bro. Then they don't talk until July. He said, yo, fam, we still performing for the 20th. He says, your guys' slot is still safe. We are just trying to come to terms with the promoters and venues. It's been hell. He says, all good, just checking in. Now, honestly, I gotta say, it's kind of impressive that Wi-Fi's actually been on tour for over 6 months at this point. I really didn't think that he could do a big time tour like that at this point in his career, but apparently the guy still has a lot of draw to his name, because you never see underground artists going on tour for that long. They usually do maybe a month, a couple weeks, and then they're back off a tour again, unless you're talking about like Little Darky. He does pretty long tours. On July 12th, he says, yo, July 20th confirmed. He says, bet. July 16th, he said, yo, where do I send the music? He says, no USB. He says, yeah, I got one. I thought it was an email. Never mind then. More closer to the show, I'll get you all info you need, like Thursday-ish. Bet. Now July 19th, the day before the show, he says, yo, do you know what the set times are? Then on July 20th, apparently the show actually ends up getting canceled. He says, yo, I saw the show got canceled. Can I get my money back? On July 21st, he says, you're not trying to switch up dates to another better show. I'm routing a tour for him as we speak. He says, I appreciate it, but I got other shows coming up in the next couple months, but maybe another time. Which makes a lot of sense. After all, this guy probably has a job. He probably has a real life. He wanted to go out and do a show on the 20th. He had everything prepared to do so, and you never ended up responding to him on the day of. You didn't even tell him like, hey, it's delayed, we're trying to move it back. You didn't respond until the very next day. But I do understand from Wi-Fi's perspective, he probably is pretty busy. He's probably dealing with a lot of stuff at once, and he didn't think to hit him up. But either way, it definitely is bad business, and I definitely wouldn't think to work with this guy again if this is how he handles things. He responds, well, we won't be starting tour till 2025, but okay, I'll put in a request. It's going to take a while for me to retrieve funds back from the agency, but I'll keep you updated as we go. If there's anything else we can do to make it easier, let me know. And honestly, pretty respectable response. I mean, it definitely seems like Wi-Fi doesn't want to give the money back, but maybe he's not lying. It could be with the agency. Maybe it's a little bit more complex than we know, but then he doesn't end up responding for another whole 8 months. It's now September and he says, yo fam, what's up with the money? He doesn't respond for 2 more days. He says, can you send me your info so I can have my agent reach out to you? Phone number and email. He sends both. He says, ganger. He says, yo. And then after that, he never gets a response and he never gets his money back. It's now November, and honestly, I know a lot of people are probably looking at this thinking it might have been a miscommunication, but he actually gave me a couple more details about the actual night that he was supposed to perform, and it definitely paints Wi-Fi in a little bit worse of a light. I paid the $500 in February, and his manager said he'll let me know more info closer to the show. The show was supposed to be in March, but it unexpectedly got postponed till July, which he did not let me know. I had to find out through a screenshot my friend sent me. I told him that I'm still performing for the rescheduled date, and he said yes. July comes around and he tells me that we are set to go, but he did not give me a time or how long my set will be, or where I need to show up. At this point, I felt that something was weird. Then Wi-Fi posted on his account that 2 other openers were also performing, which was weird because his manager told me that there was only 1 slot. My name wasn't on the new flyer, but the other 2 openers were. I show up to the venue and someone from inside asked me who I was. I told them that I was opening up for Wifisfuneral, and they made me wait outside for 20 minutes max, and brought out a paper with all the performers' load-in time and set times. And my name wasn't there. I was pissed and I knew I got played. The lady gave me the paper and then got a phone call and went back inside, then came out 5 minutes later saying the show was cancelled. And honestly, I really don't know what to make of this because it seems like Wi-Fi might have not intentionally scammed him, but either way, this is definitely very poor business, making an opener come to the venue, not telling him where to go, where to load up his music, or really what he's doing there at all, only for him to be turned away at the door. And this would already be disrespectful if he was a free opener, but seeing as how he paid you $500 to open up for you, you definitely needed to treat him better than that. I know he might be a small artist to you, but if somebody's giving you that amount of money, then they need to be treated accordingly. And on top of that, why was the show randomly canceled? Was there not enough people in the audience? Did something happen? Was Wi-Fi on too many drugs to be able to perform? Because I have heard before when he does come out and play a show, he's often sweating really bad and going through withdrawals half the time. Either way, I'm not really sure what to say about the situation. It definitely seems like a scam in my eyes, but I could see how some people might try to defend Wi-Fi and say it was a simple misunderstanding. Hopefully it doesn't come across like I'm going too easy on him. That's not my intention whatsoever. I'm just trying to be a little bit more careful with throwing around that word because I know in prior videos some people said, well, they're not really scamming. It's close, but not really true scamming. So I don't know, man. Let me know in the comments below what you think. But besides that, Wi-Fi, if you end up seeing this video, you definitely got to make this situation right. I know you supposedly got sober, you went to rehab, and you're trying to turn your life around. And if you're really trying to do that, then you got to make amends and get this guy his money back. I see people time and time again using addiction as an excuse to be a shitty person, but after all, if you took somebody's money, if you did bad business, you still got to make it right. That's part of the steps, isn't it? But anyways, guys, with all that said, thank you for watching. Shout out to Knife Gang, and don't worry, guys, we definitely have that follow-up coming to the big video I dropped a couple days ago. So if you're waiting for that, it is on the way. I just got to get everything right, get everything correct before we put it out. So just be ready for that, no matter what side you're on. Peace out.